What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 66 of Value Town. I'm ChanManV. Got Noxious and Reynad here, of course. Welcome back, guys. How's everybody doing?
Yeah.
We missed last week, but we're back now. Everybody doing well, though? Noxious, you were actually
good,
overseas,
pretty
right?
good.
You were overseas,
Yeah, I
right?
was in insomnia. Barely even, slept since I feel, or going there, in fact. But it was pretty cool.
Yeah? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Ray, how about you, man? Cool 2 weeks? Anything interesting happen?
No, I just was streaming a lot, pretty much. Played some of this game called Shadowverse.
Oh, yeah.
Played a lot of Hearthstone. That's about it, really.
All right, good
Some
stuff.
trips coming up, those fun.
Oh, a trip coming up?
Yeah, a few of them. Yeah, it's like PAX East, and then
Yeah.
the tournament in Korea, and then Austin for DreamHack.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, definitely. Going to be in Austin too, so that should be fun. And so we've got our guest today, Firebat. Welcome back to the show. He's a frequent guest, so it's awesome to have you here, especially with all these new cards out. This is going to be a lot of fun to be able to debate some of these cards.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about them. Definitely looking forward to talking about them. I've been doing a lot of card reviews and stuff like that in the last couple of days even. I just released one yesterday about some of the cards I've been doing catch up on since I was away at Insomnia with Noxious. So I didn't have time.
Same thing.
So the last 2 days I've just been catching up on all the cards. So I'm really excited to get the opportunity to talk about them.
Yeah, they're kind of coming out like they're machine gunning these things out. Like there's like a week where maybe about 6 of them would come out. Now it's like 2 or 3 a day. I feel like so we might be doing that the rest of the way, which is cool. We never got a chance to congratulate you for Cloud9. You were teamless, I think, last time you were on the show. So congrats on the team pickup there. And it looks like you're in a new place too, moving to a brand new house, right?
Yeah, I just bought my first house. So
awesome.
My first house, guys. Like I've got like 75 lined up after this one, but
So Firebat house story cup, right? Or something like that. Is that coming up? Is that right?
No, I don't think I'm ever going to do a house cup. I don't know if I can get like internet that can really handle it. My place is pretty small and humble, so it's like not really set up for that.
All right,
I can't follow Archon with that. They're the house cup officials right now, so the other team's looking to compete with them.
Okay, yeah. I'm always gonna remember, I'm always gonna think of Take, for the home stories and everything. But yeah, it's definitely Hearthstone wise, Archon's starting it up or starting that tradition in the Hearthstone community too, which is cool. But anyways, congrats on the first house too. That's definitely a big milestone in everybody's life when you finally get that chance to buy that first house.
Thanks.
Okay, so I guess this week we talked a little bit, of what we've been doing. Just a few news things we're going to get out of the way really quickly, and then we're going to talk about cards. Spend most of this episode talking about cards, and whatever time we got left, we'll try to get a couple questions at the end. So tweet your questions either at me, at ChanManV, or at ValueTownGG, and we'll get to as many as we can. All right, first off, the Winter Championship. So that happened, a couple weeks ago, but since our last episode, we didn't get to talk about it. And Tempo Storm, yesterday, I saw you guys made this awesome infographic, kind of summing up the event, which let me show it really, really quick. And I think it's a really great idea. I mean, this is something that people should have been doing for a while, just having something that recaps the thing. Because I know myself, when I'm planning these shows and stuff, it's such a pain in the ass finding all the information if I missed some of the coverage. And just digging through Reddit and all the different forums and everything. So having something like this is amazing, with obviously graphics, as well as some cool stats, just what classes were played, which ones were winning, and things like that. How much input did you have in this, Ray? Or was this somebody completely on your team?
Not at all. I actually hired people months and months ago specifically so we could do infographics after every event, but it turned out that was kind of unrealistic. These take way more work than it looks like. So it's just good to see him doing them now, I guess. But, I didn't have any input on this.
Okay.
I'm not sure who recorded the data, but usually one guy does the graphics and then one guy records all the data, watches all the VODs.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, this active card. I mean, there are these stats that nobody usually presents in any kind of way. And you know what? Things like active draws for each of the classes and 54 life taps here. it's kind of cool, like quirky information that I don't know, just brings a little bit more element to just a recap of an event.
Yeah, you need to split it then, right? Like life taps at the end of the turn, life taps at the beginning of the turn. Like, yeah, you have to split it just to exemplify everything even further.
Yeah. But there's just whatever, right? Like that, it's kind of a cool little note there. But definitely congratulations to Naaman for winning it, and the viewership was surprisingly a lot better than I thought it would be. There weren't any super high profile names playing in it, so that's definitely good to see from the standpoint of the community. What about you guys? You guys happy, or what do you guys think of the viewership of it? Because I know we talked about it like right before the last episode, just being a little curious how it would turn out.
In my opinion, the viewership was like solid, but like being at the event, the production was like pretty exceptional. It was pretty like tight show. There weren't breaks or anything. It was just like a really well composed event. So I'm actually kind of disappointed that 50K is like the numbers we're hitting, because I mean there are times when every tournament, it's like small things with like random like Lord of the Arenas were hitting like 70K, 75 every time. I don't know what changed really. There's just like less viewership across tournaments nowadays, I feel like. I'm not sure why that's the case,
Yeah, I think generally that's... Oh, go ahead. Noxious, go ahead.
No, I was just talking about maybe the staleness of it. People have seen a lot of the same stuff for a long time now. And like it's happened before as well, right? Like there's like this kind of cutoff between expansions. And I feel like maybe that's kind of the whole, if they hadn't changed Patreon, would people have watched the kind of the BlizzCon championships as much as they had? So,
well,
yeah, it might be true.
How much of it has to do with just name power? Like Lord of the Arenas you mentioned. I mean, those are some of the biggest streamers that get involved. You have kind of a mixture of both.
That might have been it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has probably had more to do with that, and that's just going to be the nature of Twitch, right? It's always going to have something to do with that.
Production was like really, really low for that, though. Yeah, it's interesting though. I guess the production isn't a big deal.
Yeah,
I mean, there's like a lot of factors that go into it, right? You can't just pick 3 things and say that's the whole story, right? There's so many different elements that go into why people watch events, and so many different people, right? Each person has their own different reason. So I think it's like a combination of all those things, right? And I think the staleness is the thing that is the easiest to fix, right? So that's the one that I think is the most important to really focus on, is just the staleness of the game. And then if you even look at forums and things, people's opinions during the time of when those tournaments are going on, of like the tournament meta, like there's so much, like Reddit's always like a cesspool of hate, right? But like it's really stale right now, so that just drives it out even more. And then if that's the general like people's consensus of what it's like when you watch a tournament, oh, you're just going to see the same boring decks. Everyone says this. If everyone's saying that, then you see all that, and when you're looking to see, maybe I want to watch a tournament today, and then you read, oh, tournaments are all crap. They're all the same old boring 3 decks. Then you're like, well, I don't really want to watch a tournament anymore. So it's like there's just a lot of bad advertising within people talking amongst each other because of the staleness.
Yeah, I'll say something though. Like I feel like the Insomnia tournament was surprisingly refreshing. Oddly enough, like we saw a lot of the same classes, same decks, but the archetypes were all over the place. I don't know if it had to do with the fact that there was no ban in Last Hero Standing, and people just started bringing like a lot of experimental stuff. But it was really funny to watch that at a point where everybody kind of got bored of the Conquest, ban format. Last Hero Standing, no ban, just brings out just the craziest things.
Like what'd you see? What's the craziest thing you saw?
Like some mid-range Warlock that just made no sense. We've seen some like hyper aggro Zoo with the Drakes. We saw, good lord, like the Priest doesn't really count. It was pretty standard, but like Elise Warrior everywhere, obviously. Last Row Standing. I don't know. Template Mage from Dog with Conjurers and Duplicate.
Like before top 8 though, everything was pretty bland. Before the cut, like during the actual Swiss portion of that event, that format was terrible. Everyone just brought the same. There's like 5 different decks that the entire 128 man brought. So like that was holy crap. Playing in that was just that was bad. But then after they got to the top 8, everyone was like, well, everyone's gonna do that, so then let's tech, and then started changing. So like the top 8 cut when they were allowed to resubmit is really the only part of that caused any change. Otherwise, if everyone kept playing the same thing, we would have seen that would have been not good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy I got something else at the last few days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, it's good to see. It's definitely we've got about 4. Well, not actually. We still got 4 more weeks or so until we start seeing the new cards come out and the new standard and classic changes. I can't wait till they announce that. Like, when do you think they'll actually tell us what the changes are? Give us some peek into what the changes will be for Standard and Classic?
I don't think they're going to tell us until it's released because
Man.
the only thing that's worse than losing to an overpowered card is losing to an overpowered card that you know is going to be nerfed.
Yeah.
They talked
Yeah.
about that when we were all at like
Oh,
California
that's true. Yeah,
for that
makes
thing.
sense.
They mentioned that they were like, yeah, we don't want to let people know the changes because if you know the combo is going to be changed and you die to the combo, it just feels that much worse.
Yeah.
I still feel bad because I know it's gonna get changed.
Yeah.
Right? There's no
We
way it
all
doesn't.
know.
I
We all
still.
know. Yeah, totally.
But like we don't have the official word on it. One of the things too is like I feel like they told us that there are some cards we hadn't been complaining about that they're going to be changing, which I mean I'm eager to see what those are,
Yeah.
right? The things that nobody brought up as a like problem that they're going to be changing.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if they're talking about stuff like Master of Disguise where it's just not an issue now, but they really want to
Wow,
make
Master
sure
of
it
Disguise.
never becomes one. Like nobody complained about it, but everybody knows it's like
Yeah.
design limitation at some point.
Okay. Well, all right, let's move on and talk about another bit of news, which was the Archon. You mentioned the House Cup. The next Archon House Cup was announced today on Amaz's Twitter account here. And this looks pretty interesting. I mean, it's not like the ATLC, House Cup where there were, a bunch of people, teams, and I mean, almost all of the big streamers were at that event. This one's, a subset of it, and this one seems to be set up differently. There's this whole concept of Amaz points, and Noxious, you're going to be casting it, which is cool. But
with Regful.
kind of like with the
That's gonna
Regful.
be great.
Yeah. So I think it's not going to be as serious of an event.
Right. It's gonna be cool.
It should be pretty laid back, but it looks like they're trying to go with some kind of different concepts. Hopefully there'll be some more details leading up to it. So I don't think it's just a normal tournament. It doesn't look like that, at least to me. Skamaz will offer deals for low prices to give you advantage. All right. That's so funny. But yeah, anyways, you can check that out April 8th, 9th, and 10th on Amaz's stream. And again, I'm sure they'll be promoting it a little bit more in the next week. Lastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about the whole 110 challenge. We mentioned it maybe a show or two ago that I think at the time Hafu had the record with 96. Well, it actually was completed by Two Beers, I think a week and a half ago, I believe. It was probably the week after our last show. And he got to 103. So what was funny about Two Beers is I remember him on his stream because I didn't watch him that much leading up to maybe his last like 10 wins or something like that, 10, 15 wins. But apparently he didn't actually try to do this challenge until a couple weeks or 3 weeks before he actually completed it. And he was normally a constructed player. So that I don't know, that really, really surprised me. I don't know, thoughts on just the feat being completed, and I know you guys just mentioned it was just a matter of time, just kind of getting like a streak like that together, but I still feel like it's pretty impressive. I don't know, any thoughts? Firebat?
Yeah, I mean, he's like a really good constructed player. I've seen him compete in a lot of open tournaments. I know I've casted 2 open tournaments that he's won, and I haven't casted very many open tournaments. So Two Beer is definitely a solid player. He was at Insomnia. He did well there. I think he was 1 game away from making the cutoff.
Yep.
So he's like definitely a solid player, and I think really any solid player that works towards that goal should be able to eventually make it happen. And I mean, if you just get a streak in the beginning and then start working towards it, should be able to happen. Like, there's no ladder system in Arena, so like you can get some awful opponents if you get lucky. So maybe his opponents were easier than Hafu's, whatever. Like, comes down to these factors that eke out those last 5 wins, right? So
yeah. I know that for the most part, like last time Ecop was on the show, we were talking about this. It's about not getting your bad classes at any point and always kind of getting decent drafts with the ones that you know are kind of top tier. And that's pretty much what happened. Like, I didn't see Priest in that roster. I forget what
his worst was Druid. He was 3 and 3 with the
Right.
Druid. Everything else was 9 and above. Like wins.
So it's still okay.
Yeah. Ray, I don't think I asked you. I don't think we got a chance to talk about that with you because it was when Ecop was here. Any thoughts on just the 110 challenges overall, and now it's completed?
I mean, it's a cool concept because it gives people something to play for in Arena. Like it's just, I mean, it's not quite a ladder system, but it's something to do for streamers. So I like that. Yeah, I mean, congrats to him for doing it. I don't really follow Arena much, I guess, so it's not like a huge deal to me, but it is something that a lot of streamers are working towards.
Yeah, just to have a stake in the ground, at least something, like you said, some kind of goal for arena players is really, really nice. So I wonder what the next one will be. Will it be like 110 or whatnot? But it took a while for this to be completed. So really, really cool for him. And let's see, I remember the subtrain too. It's cool for him to get a lot of exposure too. It's always nice when somebody comes out of nowhere and then all of a sudden gets a ton of subs and a ton of exposure on Reddit and things like that. And Tubeer, I don't know if he was invited to Insomnia before this or not, but it
was an open tournament.
It was an open.
It was open,
yeah, it was
yeah.
an open tournament, right?
Yeah.
It was open, pretty crazy.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, he would have done as well as he did anyways, regardless of that. But at least people know him now, and there's like some kind of story behind him. That's really, really cool. Okay, well, let's get to the cards. Let's start talking about the cards. This is like, I think what everybody's looking most forward to right now, and let's jump straight into them. We have like 20, I believe we have 23 cards to talk about, not including the poisons. So I kind of tried to group them in some ways that we could get through them a little bit quicker.
Sure.
Okay. So, am I cutting off a little bit? Oh, my.
Yeah, your mic's kind of cutting
Oh,
off on and
it?
off. Like sometimes you'll
Okay.
like mid-sentence just disappear. I don't know on the viewerships end, but I feel like it might just be a Discord thing. I'm not sure.
Yeah, hopefully it is. We'll have to check on that a little later. It doesn't seem like it. Seems like it's okay, at least on my broadcaster. We'll have to see. All right, so we're gonna kick things off with N'Zoth. The new old gods that they presented, and I have it kind of paired with Tentacle of N'Zoth just because just N'Zoth is the theme here. So let's talk about him, just the legendary first. It's a 10 mana 5/7 body battlecry. Summon your death rattle minions that died this game. Reynad, I'll have you start off.
I think because he's so slow, he's only really good with the defensive death rattle cards like Sludge Belcher. So that's like, with Belcher rotating out, unless the format's really, really, really slow, I don't expect this guy to see much play at all. Tentacle of N'Zoth I'm actually excited for in Wild, but yeah, N'Zoth himself I think is just too slow.
Yeah, I agree with Reynad. Like, you need the taunts to make it happen, and the taunts remaining in standard unless they print new ones for death rattles. We got Abomination, which will kill your own Nithos board, so like that's great. You got Chilma, which Chilma's not bad, but I mean you'd have to be playing like some sort of dragon deck with it, and then you're having dragon death rattles, and that gets weird. Or then there's of course Tyrion, which would be great with it, but I think there's just better alternative finishers in Paladin than N'Zoth. So I think it's like pretty weak. And you have to be getting like at least 5 mana of death rattle value in it. So you have to be playing like 6 or 8 death rattle cards in your deck because a 5/7 body is only playable at like 5 mana, right? Yeah. You're not going to play a 5/7 for 6 mana. So yeah, you got to be getting, and you're not going to pay like 10 mana for just stats because it's got to be like a huge, you're basing your whole deck around it. So you got to be getting like 12 or 13 mana out of this guy. So it's like really hard to get off with the current cards, I think. But like, more cards in the expansion related to death rattles, maybe it could see play. But
we're halfway through them now, and there hasn't been that many. I mean, one of the death rattle cards is Tentacles right here, so I'm not sure we're going to be getting enough of them. Oh, am I cutting out? Oops. I'm not sure we're going to be getting enough of them. Noxious, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the card, like, I want it to work in Standard, but I feel like, in a while, I'm sure Paladin will just slot it into, Secret Pally. It's just like, oh, hey, let me bring back, 2 Belchers and the Tyrion, and why not? And Shredders, just why not top my curve, get the best 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10 drop, at that point, you're just missing 9. So I feel like in Standard, if it's going to be seeing play, like, I want it to work in Rogue, but ultimately, I don't know why they'd play that over Cthulhu. Unless tempo death rattle somehow becomes insane. Yeah, it's just that they have a lot of good death rattles in Rogue now. Like the Tomb Pillagers are good, the 2-drop is good, the new legendaries okay, on 4. So there's stuff to do in Rogue, just not enough to justify playing a 10-drop to bring them back because you can win the game right away with Malagos, for instance, instead.
Yeah, and if you bring up back a death rattle without taunt, you're gonna die.
Right, pretty much.
Exactly. It's not like any Fin that has a bunch of charge minions that instantly do damage. So would you play this in Wild? I mean, how powerful in Wild format is this card?
I mean, every card is better in Wild because there's more synergies, but like 10 drops are even less playable. Like every deck is just going to be faster in Wild. So the high impact cards are going to be like Like Tentacle and N'Zoth, for example, has way higher chance of being impactful.
Yeah.
Because most games are going to end like turn 6 or 7 in that game, or be decided by turn 4 in the older formats. So I will see, I guess. But I think he's too slow for Wild too.
Okay. All right. So Tentacle and N'Zoth, just it's basically another sheep, explosive sheep, or you could compare it to a ghoul, unstable ghoul, with the removal of a lot of things like muster, implosion, and things like that. How effective is this card still going to be, at least, or is it going to be in standard with what we're seeing right now? Firebat, you want to take this one first?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, right, is like its potential in Patron. But now you got to link what cards are getting removed in standard from Patron. You're missing Deathbite. You're missing Unstable Ghoul.
Yep.
And is this card even better than Unstable Ghoul? Like, you have the synergy with Whirlwind being a lot better, but I personally would rather just have Unstable Ghoul because it just has way more versatility against the aggressive matchups and is like it's got the taunt effect on it, which is really strong. So
that'll rage, right?
They can ignore the tentacle, kill your other minions, and then kill the tentacle, right? With Unstable Ghoul, it kind of prevents that from happening, so you can protect things like Armor Smith or Acolyte of Pain, and the tentacle can't do that. So I think it's just like a worse Unstable Ghoul most of the time, and Unstable Ghoul only sees play in specific decks that are kind of designed around that effect. Like, you don't see it in many other decks besides Patron Warrior, like some wonky mage decks, okay, but mainly just Patron Warrior. And this card, I think, is just worse than Unstable Ghoul, so I don't think it's going to be that impactful.
Okay. Ray?
Oh yeah, I think Tentacle's pretty bad in standard, but in Wild, I'm excited for it because it's like one more.
It's another one
to the Hobgoblin Patron deck.
Oh, to the Hobgoblin Patron deck.
That one.
I forgot about that one. Yeah, that's right, man. When you were playing that was pretty awesome. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we've got 2 common cards and non-class cards. We've got Spawn and N'Zoth, and we've got Infested Tauren. Spawn and N'Zoth is a 3 mana drop, 2/2 body, death rattle, give your minions +1/+1, and Infested Tauren 4 mana, 2/3 body, taunt, death rattle, summon a 2/3 slime that doesn't have taunt. That was just something people are misinterpreting. Noxious, what do you think of Spawn and N'Zoth?
Yeah, like to me this card is so weird because on one end it's trying to be Dark Cultist, but like much worse in terms of like raw stats. But the thing is, if they decide to kill it right away, then they might just give you buffs. If you have somehow a decent setup for it, it's probably going to happen more so in Wild, I think, than Standard, given the fact that you're going to be able to play like Egg Druid in that format a lot more perhaps than you can in Standard. But like the fact that they can't ignore it lest you get a good turn 4 and trade it away, unless they give you nothing to trade it into. I feel like that alone is kind of interesting. It's a bad card if you look at it straight up, but there's so many ways in at least Wild to spawn 1/1s forever that it might just do something. I don't know about Standard though.
Okay.
Yeah. I agree with Noxious is that like it has a lot of potential in Wild, but in Standard, like a lot of the tokeny death rattle things like Haunted Creepers going to the wayside, Implosions getting out of there. So like some of these zooey sort of tokeny things that would make this card actually playable are pretty gone, and you're kind of left with just like Imp Gang Boss being really good with it because you can go like coin Imp Gang Boss into this guy, and they can't really fully clear the Imp Gang Boss and then kill this guy. So you're getting like guaranteed buff value on maybe your Imp Gang Boss, but then that's just worse than like Shattered Sun Cleric. So it's like as tempo based as Hearthstone is, I don't think you're going to be able to set it up very easily, and I think it's just going to be a really weak win more card when there's better win more cards like Defender of Argus in the format.
It's kind of like Sword of Justice, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Ray, what about you?
Yeah, I don't think Spawn and N'Zoth will see too much play. It seems like it's the kind of effect you want to play in more like tokeny decks. I mean, maybe in Token Druid you can use it with stuff. I don't know, Soul of Forest and all that, but I don't even think that stacks the right way. I don't think Spawn will see too much play. Tauren's interesting.
Yeah, so Tauren, 4 mana drop. A lot of people were comparing this to a Belcher, which was funny because my first reaction was I was comparing it to Dragonlance Mechanic just because of the stats. Overall, do you think this is a smaller version of, or this might function similar to Sludge Belcher? Ray, I'll let you start.
Does the slime have taunt?
No, it doesn't, but I don't know. People were reacting that way initially.
I That's tough to say. I 3 is a really easy number to kill in Hearthstone, but it might be the case where there are just very few sticky minions in the new format, you know? So, I mean, cards like this, if you can imagine this existing back in beta, would actually have been kind of useful. So I don't know. I'm gonna say it's probably unplayable. It's definitely worse than the 4-2 with Divine Shield, which it competes with, but maybe in some kind of deck that really wants a defensive 4-drop, you can play it over Senjin.
Okay, Noxious, how about you, man?
Yeah, I like it more than Senjin, obviously. Like just because it's the body split, just the fact that they don't deal with it with the first attack, right? Like where Senjin sometimes they'll just attack and ping. In this case, the ping doesn't even kill the slime, right? So they do have to invest a little bit more, and if they do, then that's tempo loss, or at least mana loss on just dealing with the 2/2 leftover. And if you have a deck that's able to capitalize on that little leftover body, it's kind of like the 5 mana spawn 5/1/1s, where everybody's like, this card is absolute trash, but then like the what you can do with multiple bodies is actually pretty cool in Hearthstone. In real life as well, but holy shit, it's just not good there.
I don't know. I don't know about this card. You guys are saying some things about it, like it's saying it's maybe playable and kind of okay. I'm looking at this. I'm seeing like you're spending 4 mana. The guy's got 2 attack. What does 2 attack kill? Like he can like even with like a hero power getting it up to 3 attack isn't that great. Most 4-drops are gonna have about 5 health. So you're going to need to combo it with a removal spell, really, to get anything done there, or try and have the 2/2 body live around for the next turn to attack in again. Like, just the amount of work you have to do to try and pair this with other cards to make the body actually impactful is sort of why Harvest Golem started falling out when the stats started getting higher, when like 3/4 started existing at 3 mana. And now we're talking at 4 mana even for 2 attack to be able to kill things. Like that's just the biggest downside for me is the immediate impact on the board of this card is that it is not going to be able to trade with anything. You get the Wumbling Runts scenario on the board where your minion is just there and they never kill it, or they have to kill it. It has taunt, but I mean
right.
Yeah, it's just like not impactful though. It doesn't trade 1-for-1 with anything.
The
it's a Yeti worth of stats, and it can be useful when you're behind on board.
But like a Harvest Golem at 3 mana is
well, if you're behind and you play Harvest Golem, they'll just kill you, right? This card will soak up a bit of damage and then
they'll kill you. Okay.
Oh no, but I think it's got more potential than you're giving it credit for, though. Honestly, like it's got something about it that's playable, I think.
Okay, maybe we'll see. I don't know.
All right, next, let's see. Next, we've got 2 epic cards. Faceless Shambler, 4 mana, 1/1 body, has a taunt and battlecry, copy a friendly minion's attack and health. Then we've got a 6 mana Nightmare Dragon, which was announced, I think, yesterday. At the start of your turn, double this minion's attack, 2 attack, 8 health dragon. Okay, so Faceless Shambler, definitely a little bit different than Faceless Manipulator in the form that in the fact that it just copies the attack and the health, but it has taunt. Firebat, what do you think about this?
Immediately when I see this card, I think about Handlock. I think about the ability to copy Twilight Drakes and Giants and whatnot, and also giving them taunt, because I mean, at the end of the day, you invest all this mana playing Twilight Drake and Mountain Giant, and then people hit you in the face and you need a taunt. So this accomplishes that role. I think it could be pretty key there. That's kind of a deck that being vulnerable to silence isn't that big of a deal because you already run Twilight Drakes, you probably run Sylvanas. You have so many things out there that are already vulnerable to silence. I think it could potentially fill the Sludge Belcher role in the Handlock decks.
Okay. Ray?
Which card?
Faceless Shambler, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it's costed in a way that could be playable, but it's going to depend a lot on what they do with Ironbeak Owl. Because if Ironbeak Owl is prevalent at all, this is just too high risk. But it's like I think they're going to change the Giants too. So this is a card that I think will just be affected like really badly by the nerfs. But assuming those things don't change and Handlock's still a thing, I guess you could play it in that. I mean, I've played a lot of Handlock in my life, and I do not like this card. If I want to taunt, then Sun Fury and Defender are both better defensive options. And if I want to play another big dude, I'd rather play one that I can just like play on its own. So I don't really see like a situation where I want to play the card, I guess. I kind of wish they did this one in a little bit different of a way. Like in Magic, there's a lot of clone effects, but there's like the most playable one ever. Like a standard faceless manipulator in Magic costs 4 mana, but they made one that cost 2 mana, and the drawback was anytime it gets targeted by something, it blows up. So I kind of wish they did that and made it like a 3 mana
Cheaper.
manipulator. Yeah. At 4 though, it's just I don't know, tough to see this seeing play.
Okay, Noxious, thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like this, like we're talking about Dragon at the same time, because I feel like the times where you'll be able to play this card, the Shambler, is going to be on minions that actually you want to copy the buffs off of and then conceal both in Rogue. Let's say like this Dragon just seems so obscene to me with stealth. Like I think this is a ridiculous, cold blood stealth situation where like you literally just can't do anything about it unless you play like Deadly Shot, Massive Spell, Equality Consec like right away, which is really silly if you think about it. It seems like they printed a card in the Dragon that was uninteractive, and the 4 mana Shambler, if it costs a little less, would actually be broken because you can copy big stats and then just stealth everything up in Rogue. Like that's my only issue with this is Shambler at 4 is tough to play everywhere, but any cheaper and it would probably just be obscene. So
Okay,
I don't know. Dragon.
Yeah,
Seems really strong.
Dragon's real strong. Okay, Firebat, thoughts on Shambler, and maybe first thoughts on Nightmare Dragon afterwards.
Well, I already said my thoughts on
Yeah,
Shambler.
sure.
I thought I'd be good in Handlock.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think Shambler's all right. I think people are sleeping on it. I don't think like the Faceless effect. I think is playable at 5 mana in a lot of decks. A lot of people have been using it. You don't get the charge with the Shambler though, which is a big downside. So you can't use it for the OTK combos, right? Which kind of sucks. But anyway, the Dragon I think is really strong, much stronger than Shambler. I think the Dragon's going to be good just because I think Dragon decks are going to be good. I think with a lot of the cards that have been printed so far, this may change if they're just like, oh wait, guys, surprise piloted Shredder. But like as it is right now, I think the Dragon is just the nature of Dragon decks, because Dragon decks, they're just being a little bit too low on stats because of things like Shredders and Dr. Booms and whatnot with GVG. And now that those cards are filtered out, the Blackwing Corruptors and the Twilight Guardians and all that sort of stuff is going to be insanely strong. And this is just another Dragon to go in along with that package. And they were really only missing a few. And I think this is a better alternative to Draconid Crusher, which was your other 6-drop Dragon slot.
Yeah.
So like this card definitely is much more solid than that card. So I think it'll see play.
Yeah, this you were mentioning, Noxious, just the prospects of it being stealth is insane, actually. So that's really, really scary.
Yeah, it kind of scares me actually. Like it's a silly, uninteractive. Like on its own, it's already uninteractive. Like by the way you want to play the card. What's interesting is like it fits Priest as well. Like we've seen a lot of really janky Dragon lists come up, but one of them also had like Inner Fire, Divine Favor. How's it called? Not Divine Favor, Divine Spirit.
Divine Spirit, the double.
Inner Fire. Like it sounds janky, but like Dragon decks can play those, and if Iron Beak Owl gets changed at all, then suddenly that's even more likely to work. And there's no, you know what I mean? Like it just sounds like a perfect fit for that type of deck. So,
oh gosh, if that ever becomes viable, that'll be classic.
Yep.
Ray, what do you think of this Dragon?
I think it's unplayable. Like all the buff dreams are just ridiculous fantasies. They'll never.
No, don't do it.
Hey, but what about in the sense of just playing it as a 6-drop? You still think it's unplayable?
Absolutely. Did you play with Validated Doomsayer?
Well, that card is much worse, I think. But yeah,
they both suck for the same reason. They're dead if you're behind on board. Like it's just going to get meleeed.
But Dragon decks should be ahead on board, right? You have this comes down right after the turn of Blackwing.
Yes, I agree. In the magical world where you're ahead on board, and yes, every card is good in the game. Every deck should be on board. No deck is built with the idea in mind of I want to be losing. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, obviously if you're ahead on board, like Boulder Fist Ogre snowballs very well too. But if you're behind and you play this, they just bump it with a Yeti, pass back, and then you have a 4/4. And it's like, what do you do with your life?
Real talk from Reynad really right here.
Well, apparently that's what you guys want, right? You want to laugh at the fucking taunt 4-drop while I'm trying to explain how curves into Holy Nova. But like being all negative about every card is like really easy, I think, because every set review I see a lot of people do this. Like if you're really negative about every card, most of the time you're going to be right way more often than if you are positive about every card.
Okay.
But because most of the cards like don't see a lot of play, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But if you're like So that's why I feel like the best way to do reviews is to like assume everything's crap, obviously, and then just like try to
Just
not say that on every card, but try to like talk about the ways it could see play if it does.
Right.
So in Nightmare Dragon, I do agree with Firebat. Like I think it'd be decent in a dragon deck, but you can't play it in Priest because the other 6 drops I think are just better than this.
yeah, there's a
You'd rather
ton of
like
6
Entomb or
drops.
Cabal.
Yeah, there's a ton.
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
them.
exactly. Sylvanas. But in Paladin, that's like the other dragon deck, right? Like it might be good in that, but is it better than Crusher? Maybe. It has a bigger butt. Maybe that helps. I
Bigger
don't know.
butt. It's
Good blessing
got
it.
a tracer butt. Yeah. All right, let's move on to Paladin cards. We've got Ragnaros Light Lord, which is the legendary. It's an 8 mana 8/8 body, and then we've got a 3 mana Steward of Darkshire, which just got announced today. 3/3 body, and the text is whenever you summon a 1 health minion, give it Divine Shield. Okay, let's start off with Ragnaros, which is like Bizarro Ragnaros, because it actually heals instead of shooting, and the community originally thought it was April Fool's, but then we looked at the date, and it wasn't April yet, so then we realized it was actually real. Reynad, what do you think of this card?
Ragnaros, I think it's really good, actually. I think it's really, really good. I'm not like it's always so risky to say that, like maybe it just sees no play like Adric, but I actually think this card is nuts. This is what a control finisher should look like. But I'll say this with the caveat of like, if Big Game Hunter doesn't get changed, this card is probably still meh, like not exceptional. But if Big Game Hunter does get changed, this card is insane, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. This card's going to be crazy, especially if Big Hunter gets changed. I think it's so good. Like right now, currently, your stabilization point as like a control paladin or even mid-rangey paladin things against face decks is you lay on hands, draw 3 cards. 3 cards are great, but you influence the board 0, and then you keep getting your face pummeled. Now you get to play an 8/8. You heal yourself for 8, and they have to either kill the 8/8 or put 1 damage on it and hope it heals itself and go face again. Like,
Yeah.
so it has a lot better odds of being able to actually stabilize the game than lay on hands would do, which lay on hands is just hope you draw into some equality combo to clear the board after you heal. So I really think it could finish the game against the face decks.
Noxious? What do you think
Yeah,
about this
pretty much all
light
that. I
one? This
mean,
new
I got.
light one.
It's funny because like it was announced when we were like at Insomnia, right? And I saw the card and I was like, yeah, this is actually really nuts in the Paladin list. That's pretty much what they need. And I got shit from literally everybody, like for even mentioning the fact that this card was playable because BGH, of course, like where obviously it becomes bad. I feel like at least you get a heal bots out of it, like a heal bots heal out of it, worst case scenario, and you get the BGH out of the way. What I'm interested in, like, I want to see if Healadin becomes a thing because now we've got Guardian of
yeah.
King's baseline, which is kind of boring. Like it's a boring heal card, but now they've got the 5-drop, not the Jouster, but the new one that can help you stall until you reach like the Ragnaros turns. You have Lay on Hands in the deck, Forbidden Healing for those janky I have nothing else to do like turns. And if the goal is to just stall until you drop the big legendaries, control warrior style, like I have to wonder if we're not gonna get something like that in Paladin.
Yeah, well, the problem with the healing forever plan is Emperor still exists, right? So you're going to get hit for 30, but yeah, I mean, you can dream, right? Like
I hate like the burst, like the crazy
one more
burst is
set,
just
one more
ridiculous.
set, and then Emperor's out, right? And then you
Yep.
can heal for 30. And now everyone will complain about that, and they'll want to bring Emperor back in. So like, we can't win.
That's
Everyone's at 30
crazy.
health all the time.
Yeah.
Let's make it 40 now. Let's do it.
It's funny.
Okay.
All right, Steward of Darkshire, 3 drops. So there's already there's a reagent that actually summons like 1/1s, and there's the new card Stand Against Darkness that it's kind of like the muster or the new form of muster that's a little bit later. But this card gives Divine Shield to all the 1 health minions that are summoned by your cards or by yourself or by your hero power. What do you guys think of this card?
I think it's crazy.
Okay,
I think it's really good.
Yeah. Go ahead,
I think-
Firebat. Do it.
I was excited, man. The card is good.
Yeah.
I was pretty hyped. Like, it makes aggro paladin like really strong already. Looking at it, like you can hit things like abusive sergeant. You can hit things like leper gnome. Maybe you throw in imp master and it starts hitting imps off imp master. You could play violet teacher. It can summon the things off death rattles, I believe. Like,
What
'cause
about
death
what about Magma Rager?
All right, I'm not excited about Magma Rager, but
Earth Shock. Wait. Never mind.
I think it's got just like it works with so many things. It's so flexible that you can definitely find enough cards that work with it to build a deck around it. Like
Yeah.
it's not hard to do that. And with like aggro decks, all of your aggro minions having Divine Shield is just insane. So I think the card's really powerful, and we'll see play.
Ray?
Yeah, I agree. The card's really powerful. It's a little bit more awkward than it looks, because you can't, like, if you play it on curve, it's just going to get blown up because the stats just kind of suck for 3 mana.
Yeah.
So it's in this weird spot where, like, if you're playing it in aggro, you either like play it as a super vulnerable turn 3 minion, or you hold off on it until like turn 5 or something, and then it's still kind of clunky. I'm having a hard time seeing like what point in the curve to fit it in. But this is the kind of card that would be like stupidly powerful and wild. I mean, if it actually works off of, I don't know if it works off Haunted Creeper.
Of course it does, yeah.
Yeah, it does. Anything summoned. It's crazy.
Yeah, like that's nuts.
It is crazy.
Yeah, if Haunted Creeper was still in the format, gosh, this card would be insane. Because then you could actually do what you're talking about, which is be able to play it on turn 3 because you just pop your death rattles. So with those death rattles going out, yeah, it kind of weakens it a little bit, but it's still got to be strong.
Right.
Yeah, it just might be the case where like the aggro paladin deck is so linear, you'd rather just Wolf Rider because you can just play it on curve. But I mean, this is a very strong card. Like, it'll see play somewhere, at least wild.
Yeah, I have to wonder though, like, wouldn't it fit more of a zoo-esque type of paladin? Like, if they ever get all the tools to make it work, like, if that wouldn't fit more there, because it's got this whole board control aspect to it instead of being the hyper aggression. And it's kind of funny because it looks like a counterpart to Hobgoblin, obviously, right? Like, and we've seen Hobgoblin Paladin in the past kind of work-ish. Right, like ish.
With Savitz did it for a while there. He was bringing it to turns and stuff with Hobgoblin.
Pretty good.
You know, once you know the gimmick, it's like a lot less powerful. I feel.
One of the things it works with currently that's still in standard is Dragon Egg, right?
Yeah, dude.
We've seen play in the Egg Paladin decks, so maybe we'll see some play there. You get the Dragon Egg down, buff it up, and then can trade that and get a 2/1 with Divine Shield.
Yeah.
God forbid.
I mean, even just getting one of them with Divine Shield is going to make this thing,
it's not
worth
bad.
it. So if you get two, maybe get more than that. It's crazy.
Is getting one worth it? Like, I guess the threat makes it more worth it, but then you got to compare like the 2/2 that gives Divine Shield. That stat line is pretty similar to the 3/3. If maybe.
Yeah, you're gonna go for the Divine Shield. I have to wonder though, like, does this make Silverhand Regen playable? Because like suddenly you have 2/3 drops that threaten giving you more board control on the following turn.
I don't know. 3/3 is pretty weak.
You're right. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's awful on its own.
Or just
if you're gonna get either 2/1/1s or a single X1 with Divine Shield, like, and you can, because the more of the same you have, the better it becomes, right? It's like Lava Burst Crackle. One of these existing is not enough to make like the burst as scary. But if you have both.
The cool thing is I can see a lot of different types of decks working with this. So whether it's aggro, whether it's token, whether it's just a lot of quirky things, even egg type of decks, and it's pretty exciting when they create cards like that. Okay, next up we've got priest cards, going from paladin to priest. We got a 4-mana spell, Shadow Word Horror, which is destroy all minions with 2 or less attack. It's a rare card. And we have a minion that is a 6-mana minion, Herald Village, that is a 5/5 body, battlecry summon a 1/1 copy of your other minions. It's the other minions you have on your board. All right, so let's talk about the spell first. Another removal for priest, which I didn't think we needed another removal, but how is this one different than the others? Ray, why don't you start with this one?
When I talked about like keeping classic and standard rotation in my video about the formats, one of my concerns was like priest is really, really badly designed in the classic set, and they're going to need to overcompensate with like solid 2-drops and on-curve minions.
Yes.
So I'm really glad that 2 of the cards they spoiled are just like grossly unplayable, win more cards. The spell will never see play for any reason anywhere.
Keeping on the positivity we talked about earlier.
When is it going to be played, Ray? When is it going to be?
I will very rarely say that, but like in this case, it's like Shadow Word Horror is just. Why would you not play like Pyromancer or something?
Well, what if you're facing down the face shaman though, and they go like turn 2 Flame Juggler into turn 3 Feral Spirits? You're good to go.
Out this. Yeah,
it's got the, It's like the only deck that plays 2/3s in mass, though. Like just that one so far. So
I mean, if there's enough like 1/1 spawning from that Divine Shield girl, right? Like maybe you can justify it suddenly, right? Like it's a semi decent meta call, but even then, it's like I'm not I'm not
We're
really
trying
sure.
really hard.
I mean, we're
Yeah,
making
like-
jokes. I mean, it's clearly a
Give me
bad.
Drink the Pure, dude. Give me
Why-
Drink the Pure,
I mean, we're
like
trying
on
to-
3 mana, and I might pull it
Oh,
off.
okay.
That's
Oh,
it.
There you go.
Yeah, but unfortunately,
Yeah.
that's a different class.
Just-
so-
You just need
a
to.
different
This is the
class.
combo. You got to thought steal the unstable portal in Wild, and then unstable portal out the Edric the Pure. Good to go.
Yeah.
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 Best card in the game.
Yeah, I don't understand why they would make a card. I don't even understand like why they would make a card like that. And on top of that, I've never liked the text that's, destroy anything that's X attack, X attack or less or X attack above.
Like, why do you say play this over Cabal though? Like,
just-
that's my problem. I don't.
Yeah, and there's no Shrinkmeister even in Standard, so I mean, lowers the value even more.
Well,
You
look at
could
the
really-
artwork though. That gives us a hint. Maybe Murloc's too good. And they need to-
Yeah, because +2/+1 kind of defeats the purpose of
man.
all these cards in the first place, right? Like,
Yeah.
I guess it's like a fringe case where they nerf, because we've talked about this, right? Like Cabal Shadow Priest being a design limitation card. Like, if they ever decide to change Cabal, maybe this suddenly like gets like a tiny reason to exist. But as long as Shadow Madness exists, Shadow Word Pain exists, like I just don't see it. I just
Yeah.
don't get it.
Imagine if this card was at 3 attack.
Dude,
it
that would be
kills everything.
playable, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Would it be playable? Would it be busted, or would it just be playable though?
I'd say it would
I
be
think
good.
I think it would just
Good.
be
Maybe not
playable.
auto
I
include
think
2
it'd
but it would be
playable.
good.
I don't know.
There's just so much redundancy right now with, Aconite Soul. Aconite Circle is probably equally as good as this, and then even Nova is probably arguably better
Yeah.
or equal to this too. So
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, Priest is almost at a point where they can just remove everything forever, right? Like that's the whole
Right.
idea with the Entomb decks. Eventually, you get to a point where you just remove everything forever and heal forever. If they keep getting more removal, if they get decent more removal added, then they'll get to that point, and that will not be fun.
Yeah.
yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, I've messed around with Fatigue Priest a bit. Maybe this would be playable in that. Like, it's cards like Power Word, Glory, the 1 mana one, whatever, is
Yeah, yeah.
pretty solid. Kills Shredder. Like, so yeah, maybe you get enough of those and you hit critical mass, because Justicar and Elise let you just win with a deck that's 28 removal spells.
Right.
I feel like that deck suffers from like Organized Circle being so good but taking 4 slots, right? Like if you can find substitutes for those, like more light bombs, right? Then you'll be good.
Okay.
Yeah, Light Bomb's gone.
I know.
Yeah,
See,
dude.
that's the
That
thing.
hurts.
That's
But this is a good replacement.
No,
There's-
not even close.
there's a lot of things gone in Priest, and then and they're trying to fill it with these things, which is oh god, so
Dude, just
It's
you
so
wait, dude. They have like a
disappointing.
2 mana card
I'm
that sets
waiting.
everybody's attack -2. Like they've got a massive Shrinkmeister. Like 2 mana, reduce the attack
Well,
of
what
all
about
enemy.
Confuse?
I tried
Is
that.
that,
Like
is that still in or is that out in Standard?
it's still in,
Confused?
but
It's
dude,
still
how do
in.
you
You
reduce
can
their
do
health
the-
to 2?
I don't know. Yeah. You have
How
to,
do you
like,
do that?
yeah.
you like
that's-
Holy Nova Confuse, then play that card? I don't know.
Dude, that's
It-
good
it's
combo.
still-
I like that. Emperor Thorson first just to get it all
Yeah,
in
yeah,
10.
yeah, yeah.
That's still
Why
not
not?
happening. That's still not happening. All right, Harold. Let's talk
Fucking
about
A.
Harold here.
Yes,
This
yes.
one's I don't even know how to describe or how to compare this to another card, but definitely copying the minions that you have on the board so that you essentially get cool effects. I'm thinking that it's trying to the main value will be coming from the text on these cards. Not Firebat. What do you think of this card?
I think the card is actually pretty solid. I think the dream of this card is pretty unlikely. Like you're never gonna have a Sylvanas or a Ragnaros stick that you can then get a copy of.
Yeah.
But I mean, like at worst, you're playing a 6 mana 6/6 that has a huge upside, and like the downside is that its stats are 6 mana 6/6, which isn't terrible. And the upside is you can do some crazy shenanigans if something sticks. And I'm really excited for the potential of maybe some sort of like weird Murloc priest,
Yep.
because there's been some Murloc-y priest things, and maybe you get like war leaders or things to stick. If your Murloc board sticks and then you slam this down with like even just 2 or 3 Murlocs on the board, things
Oh,
get
wow.
crazy pretty quick.
Yeah.
That's
It's,
interesting. Okay.
There's a lot of confused priest with Murlocs is actually not half as bad as it looks.
Yeah.
You know, like it sounds ridiculous, but it's actually not too bad. Also, there's like the Dream Zombie Chow, where you like you Emperor 2 Chows, you copy them, then you Organize Circle. It's like the old Rivendare shenanigan.
Yeah. All right, Ray.
People,
Is it going to be better in control, better in aggro priest? What do you think?
I mean, it's another 6 mana card for Priest.
I know,
Hey,
right?
nobody-
Oh god. Yeah.
It's interesting. Like, you don't want to play it in a normal type of Priest deck because you're not going to have that many dudes and not that many dudes that work well with it. The cards that works well with are things like Haunted Creeper, in my opinion. Like minions that you can play before it that are going to get like some value off of like a death rattle or something like that. So like Harvest Golem, you basically want to. This would be like a great card for the old Undertaker priest deck, but that's the kind of deck it would need to be, I think, to see a lot of play. I'm also not 100% sure how the buffs work with it. Like, let's say I have like a questing adventure or whatever, and I do this. Is it a 1/1, or does it keep
I
the
imagine
buffs
so.
that it had?
Yeah, I think it starts at a 1/1. Yeah.
It's kind of like using Aldor and a buff minion. It gets overridden, is my assumption. So it's like the last priority buff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So it's good with like death rattles leading up to it. Cards like Shredder, it's just good with. So if you go like Hunter Creeper, Harvest Golem, Shredder, this guy, that could be really good. But a lot of those cards are rotating out, like the good death rattles. So I guess we'll see what other ones are made. But just on like a normal priest deck, a control deck, I don't think I'd play this. I think I'd want to play like 2 Entombs and cards like Holy Fire that are good when I'm behind. But yeah, it's definitely like super interesting. I think in Wild that's where this card can do crazy stuff.
Yeah. Oh gosh, all the death rattles in play for sure. All right, let's move on to a couple. Let's see. I got a Druid card and a Hunter card. All right, we've got a Hunter card first. 3 mana, Infest. It's a spell, rare. Give your minions death rattle. Add a random beast to your hand. And then we have a Druid card, which is a 2 mana, Mark of Yashar. I think that's Noxious. You might have to correct me there. I'm not sure.
Ishar. I don't know. Like Ishar is my assumption. Like I don't know, dude.
Give a minion +2/+2 if it's a beast, and then draw a card too. Yeah. Okay, so these cards are pretty interesting. And Hunter, let's start out with this one. A lot of people's first thoughts were, Unleash with this, essentially being Ball of Spiders, but there's definitely a little bit more depth to it than that. Noxious, you want to give some insight into it?
Sure. Well, I don't know if there's too much depth to it. I think it's just like, is it an Arcane Intellect at least? If so, then go ahead and play it. Yeah. I don't really think waiting for Unleash is necessary with this card. Like, it'd be cool, but you don't have to. Because there's a few times where if you don't have anything to do, then that might just be fine on its own. Thing is, like, is Midrange Hunter going to be good enough on tempo that you can get Arcane Intellect value out of this? Because I imagine you'd have to play this in mid-range more so than combo. That's unless you're playing this in like lock and load, and then you're waiting for them to flip the board, and then you just kind of vomit everything out with.
Yeah. Firebat?
So the main question that comes to mind when I look at this card is like, is it better than Cult Master in the Cult Master sort of Hunter decks? And like most of the time, drawing a random beast, as we've seen from like Web Spinner and other effects that draw random beasts, is the beast card is generally not very good, at least in my experiences. I don't know how other people's RNGs are, but I think it averages out to not that great of a card, like an okay card most of the time, but nothing extraordinary. So I think it's better than Lock and Load for sure, but I don't think the card's very good. I think I'd rather have a Cult Master most of the time, draw my own deck, try and find my own combos. Like with the Unleash combo, if you're spending 6 mana to do a combo to draw cards, you have to be influencing the board. If you're not influencing the board with that combo, you're just going to get tempoed out. So that means you're going to need to run Hunter's Marks in your deck. If you're running Hunter's Marks in your deck, you want to be drawing your deck, not drawing random beasts. So I think it's like it's a card generation thing that requires card draw to cause the combo to happen, unless you're just tempoing people out.
That's pretty much what I was saying, right? Like if you have enough tempo power, then maybe, but
yeah. And then you're losing like Haunted Creeper and things that would go well with this, right? So there's some potential there if you can just snowball the board really hard and use it as like the Egg Druid does with the Soul of the Forest to preserve their board, but I'm not a fan.
Reynad, how about you? Do you like beasts, just getting random beasts? Does that usually work out for you?
Not quite. I mean, I think it's a bit too slow. The thing about Hunter is it has one of the best late game scaling hero powers, because later in the game, if your opponent's at like 10 life, then your hero power is, dealing 20% of your opponent's life total. So because you want to be hero powering late game with Hunter so much, you're kind of like overloaded for 2 in the late game all the time. So any like slow effect for Hunter just doesn't make a lot of sense. Cards like Quick Shot synergize really well with the hero power, because you want to dump your hand and use all your mana involving your hero power. Since you're like always overloaded for 2, I would just really like to see Blizzard stop printing slow crap for the class.
Yeah,
it's just not what it's like. like I can play Boom or Ragnaros if I need late game. I already have high mains, but I don't need like Arcane Intellect in my Hunter deck because I'm always overloaded. So I would prefer, I guess, like a different way to encourage beasts in Hunter.
Yeah, I think at 2 mana this would be good though. Like at 2 mana, I'd play this. At 3, it just feels like it's so clunky. It's like 1 mana off of being something I'd probably just include everywhere.
Yeah, but I like what Firebat mentioned with like using like Solar Force. Like maybe in Wild, you have a bunch of death rattles. That's like the right way to use it, right? There's enough printed after an amount of time where you can play Infest and Feign Death, and Infest can be like the most expensive card in your deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be pretty cool. Feign Death with it, comboed with it.
Yeah. One question, by the way, like the new tentacle, like off topic a bit, but like related to Hunter. Could you play that with like the camel as like a pseudo dread scale? So you have like dread scale, 2 camels, and 2 tentacles. You just have like a 1 damage AOE prepared every single time.
Oh wow.
Like
Okay.
you just thin your decks with that crap all the time. Wonder how much that's worth.
Yeah, it might be good in control.
Yeah.
Control Hunter, man, the dream. Still the dream.
It's still the dream
even Blizzard's
after all this
dream.
time.
Even Blizzard's dream, right? All right, let's talk about this Druid card. Sounds like they're they're still trying to encourage beast decks and Druid, and they've definitely helped some with the previous expansions. What do you guys think about this card, Firebat?
I think it's a pretty solid card, especially for Beast Druid. I don't know if like it's gonna make or break Beast Druid completely, but it's definitely one of the most useful cards the Beast Druids had so far. Like before, they had like the 5 mana potential 7/7 card, which was just awful for Beast Druid. But this card actually makes a lot of sense. It can hit like Druid of the Saber, Druid of the Claw, Druid of the Flame. So there's like a whole bunch of things. And even Stranglethorn Tiger is a really good card that it can hit that Druid often has played before. The problem is this card, though, is like how valuable is drawing a card in Druid really? Like right now, it's really good to draw cards in Druid, which is why they run Azure Drakes and things like that, because they have the combo to finish the game. If that combo goes away and they nerf it and change it a bit, the value of drawing cards goes down a little bit, which is going to affect how good this card is. But like if Druid stays exactly the same right now and there's no card nerfs, which is definitely not going to happen, there's going to be card nerfs. But if it stays the same as it is right now, this card's crazy. Because if you're able to just go like in aggro Druid, go like coin Druid of the Saber into play this, draw a card, keep cycling, draw your entire deck, get Stranglethorn Tiger down instead of Fell Reaver on 5, play this on that, cycle into combo and kill people. It's going to be insane, but they're going to nerf the combo, so we really have to see what happens with that and what their finisher is going to be.
I mean, we've even talked about like them considering possible nerfs to Ancient Allure too. Which would actually be card draw. So I don't know. Maybe this has some foretelling of that too. Reynad, what do you think of this card?
I agree. This card's pretty good. Even if you use it without getting the card draw, you're only like slightly below par on value. You're getting like a 2/2 charge sort of, and it's a good card straight up. The thing about Beast Druid is it's like either all of the Beast Druid cards will see play, and if that's the case, this will be one of the better ones, or like kind of like none of them will see play. That's kind of how I look at it. And there's a lot of, how do I put it? Like Secret Keeper, for example, is like a card that started seeing play because of the Grand Tournament, right? It started seeing lots of plays with 2 of and the most common deck, but nobody could have really or a lot of people didn't expect that. Like they didn't think Secret Keeper when they saw TGT coming out. So if more cards like Mark of Charge come out here, then we'll see like Wild Waker or whatever it's called seeing play, and a lot of these old cards surfacing. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited to see. Like, I wish this were 1 mana 1/1, like instead of 2 mana 2/2. It would actually be like the Powered Shield of Druids, like very specific, but it does give them like a bit more. I don't know, like the trading, like the up trade would be a lot worse with the minion, but the fact that you can cycle for 1 would be good. And also, like, we need to know whether or not Savage Orc is changed to affect only beasts, because in that case, maybe it's still worth cycling too. Like, even if you don't have the Trias, then maybe just getting the Savage Orc to work is enough.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I figured you'd be happy about Noxious because just given that,
Yeah,
they're just
I just
encouraging again more beasts.
I like
beasts
fun,
and Druid.
fun. Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Next up, we've got 2 legendaries, non-class cards. First one being the new Muckala. It's a 6 mana. It's Muckala, Tyrant of the Veil. 5/5 body. It's a beast, of course. Battlecry. Add 2 bananas to your hand instead of your opponent's. And then the next one is the Boogie Monster, which is an 8 mana drop, 6/7 body. Whenever this minion attacks and kills another minion, gain +2/+2. All right, let's talk about the new Mukla first. Definitely a different variation, much more expensive. It's like double the cost, but at least you get the bananas this time, and possibly there's a lot of minions that have some synergy with 1 mana spells. Let's see who's next. Let's go with Reynad. Reynad, why don't you go first with this one?
The Mukla.
Yeah, Mukla.
I like him. He's a good card. I mean, it's useful in like rogue. Decks don't want spells basically. It's a good dude. I can use a flame waker and stuff. That's pretty much what I'm gonna say. I mean,
you think it's
that's
actually?
what he's good in.
Do you think he's actually playable in those decks?
Yeah.
Like that's one, or do you think? I mean, generally, of course, he's going to be good in those. But do you think he's good enough to be playable?
Yeah, like mage or rogue, really. I mean, he's good with Antonitis. I think he's costed well enough. I mean, you're definitely losing a good amount of stats, but the decks that want cheap spells really want cheap spells.
All right, Noxious.
Yeah, I feel like this gives Beast Druid something to play, like on 6, right? Like Hunters also get like another 6 drop that's a beast if they ever end up needing one. Like that's what really I find interesting is the fact that Druids that play Beasts finally have something they can play that's not like a gimmick that's gonna like because the normal Mukla is all right, but the drawback can really be crippling at times, like against certain decks. Whereas here it's just pure value. Like if you get this guy out on Innervate or even just ramp it out, play it on curve. They're always scared. And like if tempo Druid with Beasts gets played and they play like a sufficient amount of Beasts on curve and Knight of the Wild is appealing ever, then suddenly like you need one trigger to have 3/6 drops in your deck. One of which gives you 2 bananas, the other ones are 6/6s that are beasts. And I don't know, like I think it's better than people give it credit for at first sight.